Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are completely skipping the usual preamble because we've got a truly fascinating psychological mystery to unravel right now. We're going to explore how the unseen forces of your very earliest days shape literally everything, from your daily adult habits all the way to the bleeding edge of modern artificial intelligence. Okay, let's dive right into this. I want you to take a second and search your mind for your absolute earliest memory. Go back as far as you possibly can. Notice how there's just nothing. No clear images, no real defining moments, just a strange, vast, blank space at the very beginning of your life. Well, look, if you're drawing a total blank, psychology says that is completely normal. It's actually a documented, widespread phenomenon called childhood amnesia. Most of us can't remember much of anything before the age of 3 or 4. So having absolutely no memory of being a baby, that's the biological norm, not the exception.
But why does this happen? Well, it boils down to biology. First off, your brain was literally still under construction. The physical parts responsible for long-term memory just weren't fully active yet. Second, memory really needs language to stick. Think of words as mental filing cabinets. Babies don't have the vocabulary to organize and store their experiences, so those moments just fade before they can crystallize. And third, your developing mind was busy prioritizing basic survival. It was focusing all its energy on learning to walk, recognizing faces, and interpreting immediate emotions, rather than, recording a timeline of events.
So here is the absolutely crucial point. Even though you don't consciously remember being an infant, your brain didn't just throw that time away. Those experiences, they're stored deeply as emotional patterns, rather than conscious events. These unseen permanent patterns form the very foundation of your survival habits, shaping you today without you even realizing it.
All right, moving to the surface level, let's look at how these deep survival patterns actually drive our adult behavior.
Think about your daily adult life for a second. We can clearly map out how these early survival patterns manifest in ways we see every single day. Take struggling to ask for help. That often stems from learning early on that support wasn't guaranteed, making self-reliance a deeply ingrained habit, because asking for help feels like being a burden. Or consider being overly quiet. Quiet people aren't necessarily just shy. They're actively observing tone and behavior, processing patterns internally to understand their environment safely before they ever speak up.
And oh man, then there's overthinking. Whether you're constantly replaying a conversation to scan for social mistakes or agonizing over the changes that might come with real success, your brain isn't just trying to exhaust you. Overthinking is simply your mind's protective mechanism. It's desperately trying to regain a sense of control over uncertain social situations or a really complex, unpredictable future.
Which brings us to our next major piece of the puzzle, this hidden need for control. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what I mean. We've got 3 very different behaviors here: resisting imposed rules, constantly fixing chaos, and refusing to alter the body. On the surface, they look completely unrelated. But psychologically, they all stem from the exact same drive for internal control.
Let's contrast 2 of those specifically, the fixer and the rule breaker. Fixers learned problem-solving early because they had to figure things out on their own. For them, fixing things turns chaos into something manageable. It restores stability. Rule breakers, on the flip side, don't necessarily hate structure, they just hate imposed structure. They reject rigid rules because blind compliance feels like a total loss of control and a direct threat to their independent identity.
It even extends to things like refusing to get a tattoo. Seriously, some people avoid permanent ink because they're highly sensitive to regret. A tattoo obviously removes the option to change or undo a decision, so by refusing it, they preserve their sense of control and honor their internal view of their identity as something fluid and constantly evolving.
Okay, let's zoom way out now for the macro application. It's fascinating how modern artificial intelligence is actually learning just like the human mind.
See, traditional AI is super rigid. Actually, it's basically a strict vending machine. Raw data comes in, programmed response goes out. It simply automates. But new adaptive systems, like one called autonomy, are a whole different ballgame. They're contextual. They don't just react to raw data, they learn from experience, acting way less like mechanical software and much more like a seasoned, pattern-recognizing human mind.
Here's the step-by-step of how that adaptive learning actually happens. First, the system reads the environment to build a holistic context, figuring out what's changing and what's connected. Second, it acts. Third, it turns the outcome of that action into direct feedback. And fourth, it adjusts its internal pattern.
It's taking separate, seemingly unrelated signals and connecting them into a larger picture, interpreting the actual meaning of the data instead of just blindly reading numbers.
Now, what's really wild about this is the counterintuitive truth it reveals. Normally, you add too much complexity to a machine and it just overloads and bogs down, right? But with adaptive systems built on connected patterns, new complexity actually improves clarity. Just like an experienced human, under pressure, these connected patterns allow the system to recognize what matters, tune out the noise, and make faster, sharper decisions way before shifts become obvious to everyone else.
All right, final piece of the puzzle today, evolving beyond the patterns.
A perfectly relatable modern example of this evolution is outgrowing social media. And look, this isn't just about white-knuckling it and forcing yourself to delete an app. It's a fundamental natural shift in how your mind filters input. The predictable dopamine hits drop off, you get completely exhausted by the endless cycle of comparison, and your brain actively decides to protect its mental energy and value real privacy over digital attention.
Now, what's really interesting to see here is this quote from the source material. They build internal self-worth. Their confidence starts coming from within. This highlights the ultimate psychological turning point. It's that profound shift from seeking external validation, needing likes or rigid rules or even constant problems to fix just to feel valuable, to developing a deep, intrinsic sense of self-worth.
Ultimately, moving past these hidden, ingrained survival patterns allows us to stop overthinking every single conversation, stop fearing the changes that come with real success, and start investing our energy into what actually matters. Maturing means actively choosing real, messy, imperfect life experiences over digital noise and endless mental safety loops.
Which leaves us here at the end of our journey today. We've traced the origins of our hidden emotional patterns all the way from the blank space of childhood amnesia. We've seen how they secretly drive our adult quirks, and we've even watched how modern AI is learning to mimic them. So, my question for you to ponder is this. Now that you finally understand your own hidden patterns, what are you going to change? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope it sparks some serious curiosity about your own incredible mind.